Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're skipping the long reads and getting straight to the really potent wisdom in the final 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, we're using insights from, great commentators like Swami Dayananda, Swami Vidyatmananda, and Sri Sankara to guide us.
Think of it as like a focused shot of understanding about reality, our values, and, well, how to find inner freedom.
Exactly. If you want the core message of the Gita's conclusion without getting bogged down, this is for you.
So our mission today,
It's really to distill the absolute essentials from these chapters. We're going to focus on 3 really key areas that these commentaries bring to light.
okay, 3 key areas. What are we diving into?
First up, Mahavakya Vikara. It sounds complex, but it's this deep inquiry into fundamentally how your essential self are one with the whole cosmos, with God or Brahman.
That sounds big, a perspective shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
Then second, we'll look at values dharma, why living a righteous life is so crucial for, spiritual development. It's not just about rules.
Right, more than just do this, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, the third thing is Vedanta Vikara. Basically, why engaging with these scriptures, this inquiry, is the actual method, the means to get this knowledge.
Okay, makes sense. Oneness, values, and the path of inquiry. They sound connected.
Oh, deeply interwoven. You can't really separate them fully.
All right, let's jump into that first one then. Mahavakya Vikara. Unpack that oneness idea for us.
Okay, so the absolute bedrock here comes from the Upanishads, the heart of Vedanta, really. It's the statement that the individual self, what they call Atman, isn't separate from the limitless reality Brahman.
Ah, like the famous phrase, that thou art. Tattvam asi.
Precisely that one. And the commentators, like Swami Vidyatmananda, really stress this. It's saying you are Brahman. It's not something you become later. It's a fact right now.
So it's not a goal to achieve through effort. It's just what is.
Exactly. It's unconditional. It applies to everyone, always. The problem isn't that we aren't Brahmin. The problem is, well, ignorance.
So just not knowing.
Well, yes, but it's deeper than just lacking facts. The commentaries describe it as wrong knowing. It's mistaking the temporary stuff. The body, the thoughts, the feelings for who you truly are.
Identifying with the wrapper instead of the gift inside.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. We forget our real nature, which is limitless. And that misidentification, that's the root cause of, well, pretty much all suffering, insecurity, all the ways we feel limited or sinful.
It reminds me of that classic rope and snake analogy.
Yes, perfect analogy. You see a rope in the dark, think it's a snake, and you react with genuine fear. The fear is real to you in that moment.
But the snake itself was never actually there. It was always just the rope.
Exactly. Our perception creates the snake of limitation and suffering, but the underlying reality, the rope of our true limitless self, Brahman, is unchanged, always there.
So this ignorance makes us feel like we're the ones doing everything, getting attached to outcomes.
Precisely. It creates that sense of, I am the doer, the offer of actions, and then we get all tangled up in the results, wanting the good ones, fearing the bad ones. That's bondage.
And freedom moksha comes from seeing through that.
Yes, by recognizing the true self is actually actionless. It doesn't need to do anything to be complete. Understanding that is freedom.
Okay, so where does the concept of the Lord Ishvara, Krishna in the Gita, fit into this picture of oneness?
Great question. The Lord is seen as the total reality, both the stuff the universe is made of, the material cause, and the intelligence behind it.
Like the cotton in the cloth.
Exactly like that analogy the commentaries often use. The Lord pervades everything. The entire creation is the Lord, in essence. It's not a separate entity pulling strings from outside.
So not a clockmaker god who wound it up and left.
No, not in that sense. The idea is more subtle. The commentaries explain the Lord manifests the universe simply through his presence, like a magnet.
A magnet, how so?
Well, a magnet doesn't do anything active to attract iron filings, does it? Its mere presence creates the field that organizes them. The Lord's presence is similarly the catalyst for creation without needing effortful action.
That's a powerful image.
Oh.
And we could approach this Lord in different ways.
Yes. There's understanding the Lord with attributes, Saguna Brahman. That's often the focus for devotion, meditation on divine qualities, form, etc. It's a valid path.
But there's another level.
Yes, the ultimate knowledge, the goal of Vedanta Vikara is understanding the Lord beyond all attributes, Nirguna Brahman. That formless, qualityless reality. Realizing that is realizing your own true nature, and that's liberation from all limits.
And the Gita, the Lord himself, addresses the origin question.
He does. He declares himself, as the commentators point out, as unborn, without beginning, without a cause. It directly tackles that who created God loop.
So understanding this oneness, really getting it, is liberation, moksha, freedom from the cycle, the ego.
Yes, freedom from samsara, the cycle of birth and death, and the feeling of being this small, separate, vulnerable person.
And this isn't just an afterlife thing.
No, absolutely not. The commentaries strongly emphasize Duvonmixi liberation while living. You can be free right now by consistently abiding in that knowledge, that understanding. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman.
It's a shift in identification.
Completely. From I am this limited body mind to I am that limitless awareness. Becoming fit for Brahman, as they say, is about dropping those false ideas about yourself.
And letting the truth reveal itself.
Exactly. And that requires a mind that's, cleared of the heavy stuff, tamas, inertia, and has gained some mastery over the senses and thoughts. Purification is key.
Okay, that's a really deep dive into oneness. Let's shift gears to the second area, values, dharma. You mentioned the Gita starts with this word.
It literally does. The very first word of the first verse is the dharma. And the commentators say, look, that's not accidental. It signals that alongside Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman and Yoga Shastra, the path or science of union, dharma is absolutely central.
But what is dharma? Really, it gets translated in so many ways. Duty, righteousness.
It's all of those, but maybe think of it as actions that are in harmony with the underlying order of the universe. Actions that uphold and sustain rather than disrupt. Righteousness is a good core meaning.
Living in tune with reality, essentially.
Yes, exactly. And the idea is that living this way, a life of integrity, ethics, discipline, it does something to you. It purifies the mind, sharpens your discernment.
How does it lead to wanting freedom, moksha?
Well, as you live more rightly, you start to see the limitations of worldly pursuits, artha, security, and kama, pleasure. They're fine, but they don't provide lasting fulfillment. Dharma helps you mature to the point where you recognize the need for something unconditional, moksha.
And this connects to karma yoga, right? Acting in a certain way.
Absolutely. Karma yoga isn't just about doing action, it's about the attitude. The commentators explain it as performing actions without being hooked on the results.
Detachment from the fruits of action.
Yes, and also letting go of that feeling of, I am the one doing this. Offering the action itself almost like a service, a dedication, rather than doing it just for what you'll get out of it.
So the how and the why matter more than the what.
In terms of inner growth, yes. The biggest bindings, the commentaries say, are that attachment to results and the ego's claim of doership.
I did this amazing thing, or, oh no, this failed because of me.
Exactly that kind of thinking. Karma yoga says, act because it's the right thing to do, dharma. Act skillfully, but relinquish the anxiety about the outcome and the need to claim authorship. The wise person just acts appropriately.
And the Gita breaks down actions based on this attitude.
It does, into sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Sattvic action is done as duty, without attachment, without craving results, just because it's right. Rajasic action is fueled by desire, effortfully chasing a specific outcome, often with stress.
And tamasic.
Tamasic action is done out of delusion, ignorance, without considering consequences, maybe lazily or harmfully.
Okay. Now, Chapter 16 lists specific values, these divine qualities. Can we touch on some key ones the commentators highlight?
Definitely. And again, they stress these aren't just behaviors to mimic. They arise from understanding. Cultivating them makes the mind clear, sensitive, ready for self-knowledge.
Like nonviolence, ahimsa.
Yes. And it's more than just not hitting someone. It's an absence of harboring ill will, a sensitivity to not causing harm physically, verbally, mentally. It comes from seeing the same self in others.
And truthfulness, satyam.
Speaking what's factually accurate and beneficial. It's also about integrity aligning thought, word, and deed. The commentaries sometimes link dishonesty to, feeling helpless or fearing what others think.
Interesting. What about anger, akroda?
Absence of anger. It doesn't mean you never feel the physiological response, but you don't let it take over. It's about maintaining composure, maybe understanding the other person's pain or helplessness that might be causing their behavior. This leads naturally to forgiveness, shama.
And renunciation, tyaga. Does that mean becoming a monk?
Not necessarily at all. It's primarily about inner renunciation, giving up the attachment, the sense of, this is mine, the dependency on things for your happiness. You can have possessions, but maintain an objective relationship with them.
Okay, so internal freedom from things.
Yeah.
What else?
Oh, there's a whole cluster. Tranquility, shanti, not constantly finding fault with others, apeshanam, compassion for all beings,
Great.
Yeshudaya, not being greedy, alamtvam, gentleness, mardavam.
Humility is in there too, isn't it?
Yes, modesty or humility. It's the lack of false prestige. Understanding that your talents or successes are, in a way, gifts, which leads to gratitude, not, look how great I am. Pride, the commentaries often say, shows up as getting easily hurt when you don't get the respect you think you deserve.
That makes sense. Any others that stand out?
Absence of envy, anasuya, fortitude or patience, driti, cleanliness, shafam, both inner and outer, absence of hatred, adroha, and not having excessive attachment or clinging, nati shakti.
It's quite a list. They all seem to support each other.
They absolutely do. They create a stable, clear, compassionate mind. Living these values is a form of spiritual practice. It's like preparing the soil for the seed of self-knowledge.
Doing your duties, like worship or service, fits in here.
Yes, when done in the right spirit. Performing prescribed actions like yajna with faith, not for personal reward, but maybe out of joy or conviction for your own growth, that's considered sattvic action, deeply connected to dharma.
So living these values prepares the ground. Which brings us to the third point. Vedanta Vikara, scriptural inquiry.
Right, and the Gita itself is central here. The commentators are clear. The Bhagavad Gita is seen as the essence of the Vedas, the Upanishads. It's a valid means of knowledge, a pramana, for things beyond our ordinary senses and intellect, especially Dharma and Brahman.
So it's not just inspiring poetry, it's a source of direct knowledge.
That's the traditional view, yes.
Yeah.
It reveals truths we can't figure out just by thinking or observing the world. Vedanta Vikara is the process of engaging with these texts, systematically investigating the nature of reality they describe.
The inquiry itself is the method.
Exactly. The Upanishads are the primary text for this, but the Gita, as the commentators frame it, is crucial. It prepares the seeker, addresses the doubts and needs of someone who is mature enough, a mumukshu, to really want liberation and understand that knowledge is the way.
And you don't just pick up the book and figure it all out yourself.
Well, the tradition heavily emphasizes the need for a qualified teacher, a guru.
Why is the guru so important?
Because the subject matter is subtle, paradoxical even. A teacher who has traveled the path, who understands the texts and ideally has realized the truth themselves, can guide the student, clarify misunderstandings, personalize the teaching. It's considered indispensable.
And the student needs the right attitude, too.
Absolutely. Reverence, faith, shraddha. Not blind faith, but a trusting openness that these teachings hold profound wisdom for your own well-being. Without that receptive attitude, the words might not penetrate.
So it's a partnership almost.
In a way, yes. Teacher, student, and scripture working together. And as we touched on before, the student needs a certain mental preparedness.
The mind needs to be ready.
Yes. The commentaries stress a mind that's relatively calm, not totally scattered, with senses that are somewhat disciplined, and the ability to concentrate. How can you contemplate the subtle nature of the self if your mind is constantly agitated or distracted?
Makes sense. You need focus for deep reflection.
Exactly. And that reflection, that deliberation on the teaching, especially the core truth, I am Brahman, is key practice nididhyasana. It's dwelling on the meaning, internalizing it, letting it sink in, supported by the scriptural logic.
So hearing, shravana, reflection, manana, and then this deep contemplation, nididhyasana.
No, that's the classic sequence, yes. And finally, the commentaries also mention sharing this knowledge.
Passing it on.
Yes, but with discernment. Sharing it with those who are actually ready, who show the qualities, austerity, devotion, sincerity, faith. It's considered precious knowledge to be given to those who will truly value and benefit from it.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered quite a bit.
We have 3 core threads from the Gita's final chapters, illuminated by these commentaries.
First, that fundamental oneness, Mahavakya Vikara. Understanding that your true self is Brahman, the limitless reality. It's not something to achieve, but something to uncover by removing ignorance.
Exactly. Second, the vital role of dharma, of living by values like nonviolence, truthfulness, compassion. This isn't just about being good. It purifies the mind, making it fit for self-knowledge.
Right. And third, Vedanta Vikara, the path of scriptural inquiry, ideally with a teacher, using texts like the Gita as a valid means to gain that ultimate knowledge.
Precisely. Hearing, reflecting, contemplating until the knowledge becomes firm.
And the ultimate goal weaving through all of this is
Liberation, moksha. Freedom from that false sense of being a limited, separate individual and realizing truly living as the limitless, peaceful, aware self you already are.
A profound journey. So maybe a final thought for you listening.
Yeah, perhaps reflect on this. If you really deeply accepted this idea of your fundamental oneness with everything and everyone, how might that actually change how you see yourself day to day, how you interact with the world?
And what could happen if you consciously decided to live more fully by these principles of dharma, guided by this kind of deep inquiry? What might shift?
Definitely something powerful to consider as you continue exploring these timeless teachings.